Welcome to Actions and Limits. My name is Justin Atherton. I'm the Peak Performance Consultant for Confidence Unchained. With me as always is Paul Fortune. Paul is a mindset coach and the founder of A Call to Action. And together, we make Actions and Limits. Welcome to the show, the podcast where we talk about the actions we can take and the limits we create. Make sure to subscribe to the show so you don't miss a single episode, whether here on YouTube or on your favorite podcast platform. Reach out to us on Instagram and Facebook so you're staying updated on all the upcoming content and the great interviews that we have coming out in 2021. Paul, I'm looking forward to picking the brain of our guest, Sandy Forster. She's from Australia, and man, she focuses on the law of attraction. I know we were both checking out her content. Are you familiar with that? Have you looked into any of that at all? What's your take on that, man?
I practice the law of attraction. I don't know if it's exactly word for word of the books or anything like that, but I practice gratitude, and I feel like that's part of the law of attraction. I try to focus in, especially if I'm having a bad day, I try to focus in on what is going well for me right this moment. And just by doing that alone helps me to break that mood. So I think this is a very important topic to talk about. And I know that Sandy's an expert, so I'm excited to hear her expertise in this field.
Yeah, it is. I did watch The Secret. There was a movie about it. There's books written about it. And it really, I think initially it does come across as a little like on the hippie side. And so it takes you a moment to really look at it objectively and go, like, how does this work? And I think that, it's important to understand there's a lot of brain science behind it. I know I talk about this a lot, but it's so important to understand that our subconscious is always listening to what's going on. It's helping us focus on the different things that we want in our lives and the things that we declare as being important. So for the listener that may think, oh, well, that's not for me. Well, give it a shot. I've read books that I thought weren't going to be for me, and I can see behind the scenes like what's really going on and how the brain is functioning with that. So I like it, and I figured it would resonate with you, being a mindset coach and going like, how can I change my mindset to be more productive? So I figured it would resonate with you, Paul.
Yeah, let's bring her on. I'm excited.
Awesome. So let's go ahead and bring out Sandy Forster. So Sandy Forster is an international millionaire mindset speaker, mentor, best-selling author, and multi-award-winning business owner. She's won over 8 international business awards, including 2010 Business of the Year in Australia and Best Overall Company of the Year in the International Awards for Women in Business, and in 2008 International Mentor of the Year. Over 5 million people have seen, read, or heard Sandy's coaching advice, and she's recognized as one of the world's leading money mindset coaches and has been called Oprah's Aussie secret. Sandy, so glad to have you on the show. Paul and I were talking about your content. We're really excited to pick your brain and really, see where all this came from. So thank you so much for coming on the show, Sandy.
Oh, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it very much.
It seems like you're into so many different things, and I like the whole law of attraction. It seems like you really focus on that. So how did that become where you started? Like, how did that become involved in all of the things that you're doing out there, Sandy?
My thing. I guess to give you a really short backstory, I moved from the coldest state in Australia, the most southern state, to the most northern state, or one of the most northern states, Queensland. Beautiful and sunny. Went to school, met a boy, went out with him for 11 years. And when I had a 6-month-old and a 3-year-old, we ended up divorced. And the thing that I was doing at that time, I was designing and manufacturing swim and gym wear. And it was just kind of a hobby business, because the money that business made, it bought us a swimming pool, it took us on a holiday, it bought furniture for the house, it did all that sort of stuff. But suddenly that business had to become my sole income, and it didn't go well. I ended up $100,000 in debt, and I was really, really struggling. And so I kind of, I decided, okay, I'm really in this place where I'm not happy. Like, I felt frustrated, angry, scared, all the negative emotions. And so I decided that I had to learn how to get out of that. So I decided that I would learn about money and about how to make it grow. So I did everything everyone else did. I went to seminars, I read books, I learned all about wealth creation, I learned about investing, I learned about property. But every single thing I did self-imploded. You know, I put money into real estate, and because when we split up, I ended up with about $180,000, paid a lawyer $30,000, had to buy back my car that I'd been given from Mother's Day. That was about $20,000. So with the money I had left, I ended up putting into all these different things. The shares that I put it in, the stocks that I put it in, plummeted. The piece of real estate I bought that I ended up selling in a really good market, I lost money on. The investment club that I joined, that I put money into, disappeared. The money that I put into a network marketing company, building that up, it went kaput. Like, everything I did didn't work. So I knew there was another way. So then I discovered it's all about mindset. And when I discovered that it was about the mindset, I love that. I mean, I think about it. I'm $100,000 in debt and on welfare. So welfare at the time was around $15,000 a year. That's what I was getting from the government. Okay.
Can I stop you for a second?
Yeah.
How you said it was all about mindset. How did you realize it was all about mindset?
Because I was doing the same stuff that everyone else was doing. I was taking the same practical actions that everyone else was doing, or in my mind, everyone was doing, and everyone was successful. Now I realize that, you know, things on the outside aren't always what they are on the inside. Sure. So I realized that, you know, there had to be something. And I saw the missing piece was my mindset, because when I actually discovered the law of attraction. And that was such an eye-opener for me, because I realized that what you focus on, where you put your energy, the conversations you have, you know, the things you read, every time you focus on something, you are potentially creating more of that. And I realized that when you're $100,000 in debt and on welfare, that's really all you think about. Like, you're so stressed around money. All you can think about is how you don't have money. All you can think about is all the debts that you have. All you can think about is how you're not going to be able to do anything. And every time a letter comes in the mail, you're scared it's going to be a bill. Like, you're consumed with debt. So I realized that that's all I was focusing on, not having money challenges. And so I realized that I needed to change my thinking. And the one thing that I really got out of the law of attraction when I first started, it felt so much better, even if it was never going to work, even if there was no way, and this was a lot of hocus pocus, new age, hippie, stupid stuff, even if it didn't work, it felt so much better actually focusing on what I did want to create, what I did want to see my life like, focusing on being a millionaire and being happy and being free and being able to travel and being able to buy the things I wanted and being able to just have a life beyond what I was living. That made me feel amazing. So like I said, even if it wasn't going to work, it just made me feel so good. And so I really dived into it head first. And I just created different processes and exercises and all sorts of things that could keep my mind focused on what I truly wanted, as opposed to where I actually was. And the end result, I went from welfare to millionaire. So people can say it's, you know, not really anything. It's all a bit out there, but it works.
Sure.
Yeah,
well, Sandy,
works.
Explain the law of attraction for maybe someone that hasn't been exposed to that idea and doesn't know what we're talking about. Explain how that works and how you use that law of attraction.
Okay. So the basis of the law of attraction is what you think and focus on, you then create. So there's kind of a very spiritual side to it, but there is now also, I think we're really lucky that we live in amazing times where science is able to prove things. And so through quantum physics, they're able to show that everything in the world is, I guess you call a wave or a particle. And a wave is something that is unseen, and a particle is something that becomes matter. And we actually have the ability to change waveforms out in the universe into matter, into particles, into reality. And so when you shift something, when you focus on what you want and you continue to put your mind there, you think about it, you have conversations about it, you write goals around it, you visualize it, you affirm it. When you put your energy into what you want, what happens is you affect that unseen, those wave matters, those waves, and you actually can turn something, a thought, into a reality. And again, it sounds very out there and woo-woo, but as I said, science has shown it. And the other side of it, which I love to dive into, is your mind, like neuroscience and being able to rewire your mind. So again, if you don't want to dive into the law of attraction because you think it's too out there, just think of it as positive thinking. Just think of it as rewiring your mind. And when you focus on what you want all the time, what happens is you actually open this little gateway at the back of your skull called the reticular activating system. So when you think about it right now, wherever you are, whatever you're looking at, you can probably see a million different things. And I mean that, like you can see where I'm sitting, I can see a computer, I can see a light, I look out the window, I can see a tree, lots of leaves, different shades. I can see big trees, little trees, different colored leaves. I can see a pool. I can see, like, literally, if you went through every single thing, millions of things. And your brain, if it had to actually consciously process all of that, it would go into overload. It would just shut down. It couldn't cope. So what happens to keep us, functioning? Our brain filters out things that aren't important and only lets through what is important. All right. So what happens is when you are like me previously, $100,000 in debt and on welfare, and all I'm thinking about and all I'm focusing on is how I don't have money, what happens is my brain thinks, oh, that is important. So we're going to continue to allow her to only see things that allow her to experience having money challenges and not having money. Whereas when you focus on, for instance, when I discovered the law of attraction, it was about, I wanted to be a millionaire. So I just continued to affirm it. I visualized it. I wrote all these different processes around it. And what happened was my mind was then able to say, oh, that's important. So people, opportunities, circumstances, all those things that were out there already, but I was filtering out, suddenly I saw them. Was it a miracle? They suddenly all appeared? No, they were all there all the time. But my brain was trying to keep me sane, keep me in what it thought that was really important to me. So it's about what you've put into your mind, into your brain, you are then able to see more of in the world. So that's the scientific side of it.
What practical advice would you give somebody that is typically a negative thinker but wants to rewire their thinking?
Okay, and that was me. I was so negative. Like when I was in the designing and manufacturing swimwear, I had a little store. I'd sew all winter, buy all this fabric, sew all winter. I'd find a vacant store down by the beach. I'd sit in the stock shop and I'd sew all these bikinis, and then I'd sell them all summer. And I remember when people would come into the store, friends of mine, and say, oh, things look like they're going good. I always used to cut them down. Oh, yeah, it's only good today, but it'll be no good tomorrow. I was Miss Negative Nancy. So when I discovered the law of attraction and I discovered positive thinking and discovered that you could rewire your mind, I realized that I needed to change the way I thought. So think about your mind as having thoughts that are either prosperity consciousness thoughts, where you're thinking about money and having money and being abundant and potentially being a millionaire, being in that place where you're making lots of money. And think about poverty consciousness thoughts, when you're focusing on your bills and how you don't have the money and all that stress around that. So if you're thinking the same amount of thoughts of not having money and the same amount of thoughts of having money, you're kind of balanced. But what you want to be able to create something in your life, to be able to attract something into your life, attract opportunities, people, circumstances, etc. You want what your dreams, goals, and desires are to be your predominant mental attitude. So you just have to shift the scale. You just have to focus more on what you want. Doesn't mean you can't ever have a negative thought. And you can't ever think, oh my gosh, here's a bill, I don't have enough money. It doesn't mean that at all. It just means that when that happens, you switch again to thinking, but what do I want? Okay, that's not what I want. What do I want? So if you just shift it so that your predominant mental attitude, you're thinking more about what it is you desire than what you don't desire, then you'll start to shift. You'll start to see changes. You'll start to attract more into your life.
Yeah, Paul and I have had this conversation a lot. And, Paul and I have this conversation about, is it about adding more positive things into your life, or is it about removing the negative? What would you say is more important?
I would say positive, only
Okay.
because a positive thought is more powerful than the negative. Okay, so one of the things I like to tell people is understand that the universe wants far more for you than you could ever want for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we are designed to flourish. We are designed to be abundant. I mean, look at everything in the universe. The universe is designed for abundance.
Yeah.
The universe is more abundant than we could ever understand. It's creating, stars and planets as we speak. It just continues to grow, and we're part of that growth. So we are meant to also grow and expand. So as part of that, the universe is supporting us. So as long as we put our mind more on what we do want, then what you'll find over time is you will less and less think about what you don't want, less and less get stressed about how things are, how they're not the way you want them to be, because you're beginning to shift your, what I call your vibration. You're beginning to shift your energy to what it is you truly want.
Sometimes it seems
What about
like
Go on.
I was going to say a thought came to my mind, because I like to, when people ask me how I'm doing, I don't say fine or okay. I say I'm doing fantastic. And it seems like for people that have that negative mindset, or a mindset that's skewed in that direction, it's almost uncomfortable for them to hear that. Because I was at the grocery store the other day and I asked, the clerk how she was doing. She said, I'm doing okay. How are you? I said, I'm fantastic. And she's like, well, why are you fantastic? And I said, why not be fantastic? And she's like, well, don't lie to yourself. And I'm like, how am I lying? I'm like, if I'm fantastic, like, I appreciate that we have today, that I'm healthy, that I'm doing good in my business. Like, why wouldn't I be fantastic? But it really does seem to make some people uncomfortable when they're not used to that, extra positivity that you're putting out there, especially sharing it with other people. Have you experienced that at all, Sandy?
Oh, totally. And I've actually experienced it from the other side. So I remember decades and decades ago, I had my business and I was really struggling. And I had a friend who had a business. And whenever people said to her, how's business going? She'd say, oh, it's amazing. And I think, and part of me thought, how can she say that? It's almost like you said, I felt uncomfortable. It's like, I thought, and I think it all came back to, we are taught through society, through the media, and especially here in Australia, the tall poppy syndrome. Like, don't stick your head up too much because it'll get chopped off. Like, don't stand out from the crowd too much. Don't be too successful because, everyone will want to cut you down. So, yeah, I think media, even family trying to keep you safe, we're all kind of taught not to really do too well or be too different than anyone else, because it all comes back, think about it, all comes back to caveman days, when we're wired to be part of a community, wired to be part of a tribe, if you will. So we're wired to be part of that tribe. And if we did anything that made us potentially be ostracized, being ostracized meant death. So it wasn't just that, if you did something that upset someone else, you sat in the naughty corner, you would be out on your own. You wouldn't be part of that tribe and you'd be eaten by a woolly mammoth or a saber-toothed tiger or whatever. So we're wired for that. We're wired to be accepted and to be part of the community, particularly women. And that's why women, because men, at least, if they got ostracized, they could potentially protect themselves to a certain extent. But women, they were protected by the men. And if they weren't part of a community, a tribe, and being nurtured by other women and being protected by all the men, we would die. So we're very wired to be accepted. And so we don't want to stand out. So yeah, from that side of it, I've totally experienced someone else saying how great things were and feeling uncomfortable. But now that I'm on the other side of the coin, I totally agree. People, if I say, you know, things are great, and I love my life beyond anything, because when you're $100,000 in debt and on welfare and you completely change it, literally grateful every single day. Like, even on my walk this morning. So I walk my dog down the beach at really early. I get up at sunrise, go for a walk. And I walk along there, and sometimes I just whisper to the universe, thank you. And I just whisper, thank you. And I just continue to do it on my walk because I feel so grateful. And the other side of that is the bonus of being grateful is that the more grateful you are, the more the universe will start to bring you things to be grateful for. That is such a secret that I think people don't really get how powerful it is. Gratitude is a huge attractor. Gratitude is saying to the universe, even in advance, that you have something. So if there's something you truly want, let's say you want to get to the point where you've made $1 million. If you just spend some time whispering, thank you for my $1 million. And you don't, because, you know, people think affirmations have to be beamed out to the universe, but honestly, the universe is listening. You can whisper, you can say it in your mind. But I love whispering because I feel like I'm really connecting to the universe and it's really hearing me. So you could just whisper, thank you so much for my $1 million. Thank you for my $1 million. And just say it as you walk along. And honestly, your energy will change. Your mindset will change. You will start to attract things. I remember the other day, it was only yesterday, I was walking along and I was just thinking, you know, saying my usual thank you. And then I just said, thank you for my money miracle. And I looked down and there was a crisp new $10 note sitting high on the bluff of, you know, because I walk along the beach and there's this huge big cliff, windy everywhere. And there's this $10 note just sitting there waiting for me to pick up. And it's like, you know, the universe is waiting, is listening, wants to give you what you desire. And if you spend some time connecting with it and being grateful, miracles can happen.
I love a lot of that. I use that a lot in my practices as a coach. So I'm right there with you on that. I wanted to go into this, you know, when you're in your journey of, you know, positive thinking, you're putting it out in the universe, and something just hits you like a bag of bricks. You know, it could be a death in the family, good in car accident, something throws you off where it's very hard to get back on that horse and have that positive thinking. What do you do in those situations?
I've been there, done that. So I think people need to understand that just because you discover the law of attraction, just because you discover how to rewire your mind, doesn't mean suddenly life is going to be perfect and everything's going to be, you know, nirvana from now on. We live in a physical world and stuff happens. So basically what you have to do is understand when something does happen, do whatever you can to shift your thinking. So, I mean, gratitude is the easiest thing. Gratitude is simply the easiest thing to bring you back to trying to feel better. Sometimes it's not that easy. And I'm speaking from experience because a couple of years ago, I climbed Everest and I almost died. I got fluid on the brain and the lungs and they helicoptered me to Kathmandu Hospital. And it took me about a year after that to kind of get back on track. I had so many things going wrong with me. And then I had an injury that was like, literally took up every space of my brain. Like literally I felt like I was in fight or flight every second because the pain never went away. It didn't matter what drugs they gave me, how high a dose it was. I was literally in pain every day. And one of the things I do every morning is meditate. I couldn't meditate at all. I couldn't sit still. I couldn't think because my brain was constantly. So I spent, and that went on for a whole year. And so I don't know if the two were linked, but I was in that place where I really couldn't focus on what I wanted. I couldn't think about all my goals, my dreams. I was literally in fight or flight mode the whole time. And that is not a place to create. That is so not a place to be able to bring into your life what you want. Because again, coming back to caveman days, stress was all about, you didn't have enough food, so you could die. Stress was all about you're being chased by someone from another tribe, you could die. Stress was all about you're being chased by the woolly mammoth or the saber-toothed tiger, you could die. So stress was really based around life or death. So we're still wired for that. We're still wired that if we're in stress, it's life or death. It may have just been an email that you didn't like. It may have been someone cutting you off in the traffic. But that stress says, oh my God, you're going to die. So when you're in that stressful state, you're not able to create. You are not in a place where you can begin to attract. Okay, so what you have to do is do whatever you can to get into that space. So the only thing that I could do in that time that was even remotely to do with creation was listen to guided visualizations. And luckily I've created dozens and dozens and dozens. So I used to listen to them all the time. And that just brought me, that didn't get me to a place of creation. That just brought me out of super stress into just kind of neutral. And that was good enough for me at the time. But as soon as I went out of that place, as soon as I was healthy again, as soon as my body was good, then it was like full on focusing on what I wanted, full on putting my energy on what I desired, full on spending as much time as I could, like really immersing myself, like going on a metaphysical manifesting marathon. It was really about doing whatever I could, because we've got the choice in every moment to focus on what we want. And so if you are in a space where you can focus on what you want, you're not going through something really traumatic, whether that's physically or whether that's mentally or whether that's emotionally. But when you are in that space where you can, for a moment, focus on what you want, spend the time focusing on what you want. Don't watch the news. Don't scroll through social media. Don't read, stupid newspapers or magazines. Spend the time focusing on what you want and what I call raising your energy, because when you do that, when you raise your energy, raise your vibration, you then become attractive to what you desire. So it's really a choice in every moment.
Yeah. And that for me is like removing the negative stuff, right? Removing those negative influences that really, allow you to soak up the positive and be more grateful for the things around you. And I love there is so much science behind it. And I keep hearing and thinking about, the different conversations that Paul and I have had with different guests and understanding like how the brain works and how you focus on what you see, like you see what you focus on, right? And it becomes more prevalent out there. If you are being more grateful and looking for the positive side, you find more positive things to be involved in. And your brain, like you said, in a fight or flight mode, you're stuck in that amygdala, and so your conscious brain isn't able to really kick in. So I love the background side of it, that there is a lot of science behind it for the people that may think that it is, like you said, the woo-woo type idea out there. So, but I'm curious, I get asked this question a lot. So Paul works with men and women. I know that you work with just women, and I work with just men, and I get this question a lot, like, why do I work with just men? So I want to ask you that question. Why do you focus your coaching just on women? Because just from listening to you, I know that both men and women could benefit from it. What made you make that choice?
I don't know. I think it was very early on when I first started talking about the law of attraction. We're going back around 2003. And back then, I guess law of attraction was not known to the point it is now. Like it simply wasn't. This is before The Secret, and The Secret really opened the door up for so many people to understand what the law of attraction actually was. So back in 2003, when I first, I actually woke up one morning and I was doing lots of meditation and lots of, visualizing lots of things back then. I woke up one morning with the name Wildly Wealthy Women in my head. And I didn't think about it. I just went straight online and I registered the domain name. So that was kind of how it started. I registered the domain name. I said to my business partner at the time, she was an accountant, an asset protection specialist, like all what I call the boring stuff. She knew all about numbers from the practical side. And I was all about the mindset. And I said to her, I think we should launch a program that combines everything because she also did property investing, everything about the practical side, and I'll combine it with the mindset side, and we'll do Wildly Wealthy Women's Wicked Weekends a few times a year, and we did live calls, and so basically we rolled this program out, and within about 3 months we've made close to $2 million. So yeah, wow. So it was kind of like That got me started working with women. And I think also, to be perfectly honest, I felt like men wouldn't get the law of attraction. I felt like they'd think it was too woo-woo,
Sure.
it was too out there. But now that science has really kicked in, and now that, neuroscience has kicked in as well, and all about the brain, I think men are more open. But if it was only just the woo-woo side, I felt like back then that men really wouldn't get it. And
That's
also
fair.
the way
That's a
I
fair
teach
assessment.
and the way I teach and the way I do things is all very, I don't know, I guess it's kind of a little bit feminine because I love doing all the
Sure.
girly stuff.
Well, I want to go back to what you talked about moments ago. You climbed Mount Everest. I want to hear about that.
Yeah, well, not to the top. So one of the things I love to do is travel. So when I was 14, we lived in the southern state, I told you, and we moved to the most northern state, the sunny state. But in between that, my parents decided to sell our house and travel with my older brother, younger sister, travel the world for 10 months. So I got the travel bug when I was, 14. From that point onward, if I had any money, I would travel. I love to travel. So I've been to about 52 countries. And Mount Everest, yeah. So I decided, I watched this movie, Everest. Now, if anyone's seen it, that would not inspire you to climb Everest because so many people died. Sure. But I watched it and thought, oh, wow, I want to do that. So me and my daughter decided we would climb Everest, and yeah, so we did. And we trekked to base camp. But I suffer from altitude sickness, and it had happened before when I climbed Mount Kilimanjaro. It happened even on the really high points when I trekked the Inca Trail. So I knew that I suffered altitude sickness. So I, hired an altitude sickness tent beforehand and slept in this special tent to get me all acclimatized, did everything I could beforehand. But some people's bodies just don't adapt. And so, yeah, I got really sick and nearly died. But yeah, it was interesting. It was fun. I'm not the dying part, but the rest of it was fun. It was amazing. It was like the scenery, the people, the yaks, the mountains, the snow, it was just mind blowing, a great adventure. Yeah.
Wow. I can't believe how long, what's the process of getting ready to do something like that? Because I would imagine you'd have to prep at least a year in advance to get ready for such a feat.
I hate to burst everyone's bubble and make me sound not as impressive as I probably sound now, but it's not that hard. It's like, as long as you've got a reasonable level of fitness. We did a lot of prep because we were terrified, but once we did it, the actual exercise part isn't that hard. It's the breathing. It's not getting enough oxygen. That's the hard part. So it makes every single thing you do 20 times harder. So, just walking is a real struggle. So yeah, you really just have to make sure you're fit. Like, you can't be a lazy slot. So you've got to just be fit and and then climb away. Just keep going.
Well, I'm sure that you use that experience in your coaching with your clients to kind of help, push them to that next level and realize, if you can really focus on what you're doing, like really focus on that breathing and just, put that out there into the world, right? That visualization. So it sounds like you're doing a lot of great things. How can our listeners and our viewers, find you or reach out to you? Like, what kind of projects are you working on right now, Sandy?
The main thing I'm working on is a program that I originally developed back in about 2006. I launched it, had it out in the world, and then for some reason I just closed it down. But with everything that I've discovered and learned, because I'm in a group called the Transformational Leadership Council. It was founded by Jack Canfield, and he brought the world's leaders in the personal development industry together, and we meet in secret locations twice a year, although currently they're virtual. But all those people within that group are they're on the cutting edge of everything to do with law of attraction, neuroscience, anything to do with sort of body, mind, spirit, manifesting everything. So I learned so much stuff. So I really wanted to sort of bring all that into what I was doing. So I created a program called Millionaire Mindset Experience, and it's really about totally rewiring people's brains so that they easily manifest money. So that's my sort of passion project at the moment that I've just launched. And really, other than that, I'm working on more books because I wrote my first book back in 2004. And I've just really got to get another one out there. I've had one in the pipeline forever.
Awesome.
But yeah, so if people want to reach out, they can find me at wildlywealthy.com. And if they want, I've actually got a manifesting bundle that people can have for free if they want to get a taste of, being taken through a guided visualization, and some affirmations to help them manifest more. They can just go to wildlywealthyfree.com.
Awesome.
Hey, Justin, I have one last question. It sounds like you're in the rainforest. Where are you at right now?
So I live in beautiful Sunshine Coast, Queensland, Australia, and it is very tropical. And yes, we have birds singing in the background. And
the birds do sound different. I was listening to it and I was like, those aren't birds at Paul's house. I can definitely hear like the difference.
And it sounds like there's a waterfall too.
Yeah, well, I've got a swimming pool and it's all doing its thing out there at the moment.
Okay.
But listen, I want to finish off by saying, people might think that, yes, I've gone from welfare to millionaire because I'm some sort of special person. But honestly, I dropped out of school in grade 11. I didn't even finish high school. I had no connections. I had no money behind me. I ended up $100,000 in debt and on welfare. And the thing that transformed everything for me was changing my mindset, changing the way I thought. And so I believe that if I've been able to go from welfare to millionaire by doing that, everyone has the ability to completely transform their money situation or any situation simply by using the power of their mind. So if I can do it, anyone listening can do it too.
I love that, Sandy. And yeah, I know it's Paul's big thing. Like Paul really focuses a lot on mindset. So you're speaking to the right crowd here. So thank you for sharing that. We like to wrap up our show and ask our guests these questions with the title of our show in mind, Actions and Limits. What would you say is the number one action that people listening right now can put in place that will make a huge difference in their life?
I think that word alone, action. Too many people learn, too many people, discover things, too many people read, go to seminars, podcasts, you name it, listen to this and take no action. Just take action, take action.
I love it. Just apply the knowledge that you're gaining, not just continually gain that knowledge. I like that. And the other side of that, and I'm sure you've seen this, are these self-imposed limits that we put on ourselves. What have you seen that is the most prevalent out there that we need to get rid of right now?
I think buying into what society says and what the media says and what everyone says about what's possible. And that's why one of the reasons I teach all my students, just completely disconnect. Just don't buy into anything. Understand that you are limitless. We all are limitless. We are part of a universe that, as I said before, is all about growth and expansion. And the universe wants far more for us than we could ever want for ourselves. And when you really understand that, you really understand that it's not you trying to make something happen by yourself. You've actually got the universe backing you. So anything is possible when you really understand that and when you really grasp that concept.
I like that, Sandy. Sandy, a lot of amazing stuff out there. I know that our viewers and listeners got a lot from listening to you and, learning to change their mindset, focus on the positive things so you can create what you really want in your life. So thank you so much for coming on our show, and we're glad to have you.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks, Justin. Thanks very much.
Sandy was a great guest. I liked hearing her insight about, having that positive mindset. I'm sure it resonated with you. What was your favorite part about what Sandy brought up?
A lot of people talk about when they're in situations, especially if they're in poverty, welfare, what have you, and they say to themselves, there's no hope for me. And here's a story of there is hope. And it was all about changing mindset and doing things differently because of how you rewired your mind. So I think that's extremely important to people, that you might be in a bad state right now, but it doesn't have to end that way for you. You can do changes to improve your situation. And I think that was the message that I got from her.
I like that. That is an important message to get. Just because you are in that negative space, it doesn't mean that it's forever. It doesn't mean that it's going to last. So it's And it goes into the whole idea of the law of attraction. It's like, okay, I get it. I'm in this right now, but where do I need to focus? What do I actually want? And then turn your attention to that, because it's funny how that does work, because I think about it, being at work, looking for a specific thing, like a car, like this stands out. While being a police officer, I don't know how many times that happened to me. It's like, we're looking for a gray truck. All of a sudden, every car on the road I see is a gray truck. But it's weird how your brain does flip that switch and go, okay, gray truck is important. Here are all of them. And so if you do switch your mind to say, focusing on like creating more wealth, you will be more open to those opportunities. And so it really is about changing your focus. And I like how she did talk about both of those sides that you and I have discussed multiple times. Like, is it more about adding the positive or more about removing the negative? And it's almost like she touched on both. At first she said, add more positive, but then she's like, well, limit the stuff that you expose yourself to, the news, this, that. So she talked about both sides, which I agree. I think both are very important, but it's about changing what you focus on. So that was my biggest take from what Sandy shared.
Yeah, she touched base with the title of our podcast, Actions and Limits.
I love it. I love it. So we can wrap up the show with another segment of Ask Paul Anything. Make sure to continue to send your questions into the show by sending an email to actionsandlimits@gmail.com, and you can get your question featured on the show. This question, I'm excited to hear your answer for this one, Paul. So this one comes in from Lisa in Florida, and she said, Paul, what part of a kid's movie completely scared you?
What part of it? So I'm going to name a movie and why it scared me. That's how I'm taking this question. So,
okay.
For me, it was the movie Beetlejuice as a kid. That movie scared me big time. And I know it was supposed to be a comedy,
sure,
but it was a dark comedy. And, with the people dying and haunting the house and,
sure,
and with the Beetlejuice and all that stuff I don't know how old I was at the time. That gave me nightmares. I had to have my night light on for months after because of that movie. So Beetlejuice is my answer.
That's a good answer. I'm trying to think. I was like, man, I don't know if I'd really equate it as a kid's movie, because I don't know if I'd let my daughter watch it being 9. I think it would freak her out. You probably watched it when you were like 4 or something, because you watched some crazy movies that I'm like, no, you were way too young to watch that, bro. Like, no wonder like you had your nightlight on and stuff. So no, great question. So again, make sure to continue to send your questions in the show guide to get Paul to answer it here on our segment, Ask Paul Anything. So another great show, another awesome guest. Glad that Sandy could come on and let us pick her brain. So great show, Paul.
Yes, for Justin Atherton, this is Paul Fortune. We'll see you next week.
All right. See you next Monday. Thank you for listening to the show. Don't miss an episode. Click and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on your favorite podcast platform and find us on Instagram and Facebook under Actions and Limits to stay updated on all our upcoming content. Continue to email the show at actionsandlimits@gmail.com for our segment Ask Paul Anything. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next week.